Hello there, and welcome to another great video game ideas not used podcast, GVGINU for short. This is the first of many, which will be called GVGINU Redo. These podcasts specifically highlight game ideas or anything else that I've talked about in my article series, which I would like to elaborate a little bit more on. Discussion today is boot for it. But Capcom hasn't done much in the way of that as of late. And I, personally, have thought that it could really use a reboot after the fiasco that happened with Dino Crisis 3. I personally never played the game, but I've seen screenshots for it, and it was a truly huge departure from the first two games, and it was in such a way that it made very little sense. So, that's just the point I want to make, and I'm sorry that you hear me sniffling. I've been having problems with my allergies as of late, so try to ignore that as much as you can. Anyhow, after Resident Evil 4 and 5 came out, I always thought it would be cool if Dino Crisis got a reboot. I mean, not necessarily changing the story at all, but just a reboot in a way that it would be similar in playstyle to Resident Evil games like 4, 5, and 6, where you have the over-the-shoulder view and you can look at things from that perspective. It would be cool. And to be able to actually play the scene where the guy is running from the T-Rex in the first game and he gets eaten. I mean, it would be a very small scene, but just to let you have control of that character and see how long you could last running away from the T-Rex. I mean, eventually it would have to catch you. But it would just be really cool if they could do that. Or even do something like what Metal Gear Solid 3 did, where you could do a time paradox and like maybe the guy escapes and it changes the whole story up. But one way or the other, it would just be an interesting thing to do. I also wouldn't want them to change how the environment is laid out, just your physical perspective of it. So basically go back and re-scan all of these maps, update the look, but don't change the way it's presented to the player. I mean, well, obviously it would change the way it's presented if you're looking from over the shoulder, but keep the same story. Maybe update your voice actors, because voice work has come so far along nowadays. It would probably feel really awkward with the old voice work. But if they did that, that would be an awesome thing for Dino Crisis. I mean, plus the quick equip system that is in Resident Evil, the Resident Evil series as it currently is, it would probably work out better for Dino Crisis that way, as it's not really a survival horror game as it is more a survival game. Yeah, there are parts where you can be caught off guard and it can be scary at times, but to me it more or less falls as just a survivalist game that just happens to play in the similar style to Resident Evil. Now, that's just my take on it. Though I would prefer, if they were going to do it, that they did it with Resident Evil 5's engine, because that would look better for the Dino Crisis theme. Resident Evil 6, I'm not too happy with the way that engine runs. I mean, it practically is the same as a Resident Evil 5 engine with some improvements, but the way you swap equipment and change things in and out, I would prefer it to be more like Resident Evil 5, with the action feeling more like Resident Evil 6. If that makes any sense to anyone. So I would love to be able to see that game from like an over-the-shoulder perspective, where you're walking around halls and running away from raptors and things like that. It would be an amazing game to have Capcom go back and just like, okay, we're going to rebuild this whole game from the ground up. It would really, really be an amazing thing. And I have no doubt that it would sell very well. None. See, the problem is with Dino Crisis 3 to go to Dino Crisis 3 from Dino Crisis 2, there was a major leap from what could have been the present time at the time of the game's release to a distant future where things were just completely screwed the hell up. And it in my mind, if I was working on that game, I would say this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we probably should scrap this anyway. Which they probably should have, instead of releasing Dino Crisis 3 the way it was on the Xbox. The original Xbox. I don't see how that was even a plausible approach, but I guess it's because it was the third game and they wanted to do something special with it, but they didn't quite execute it in a way that people really liked. I mean, like I said, I haven't personally played that game, so I can't say it's a bad game. I just have a feeling that it is a badly represented game. Which, in and of itself, if the representation of the game is bad, then nobody's going to want to play it. So, that's why I think Dino Crisis should be rebooted. Start from the beginning, keep your story the same, maybe give some additional content, change out the voice work because it's going to need an update. If you can get all of the same voice actors, cool. If you can't, get some people who sound similar. That's just how it would have to be. But I don't really see any point in Capcom not redoing the series. Dino Crisis was not a bad series. I mean, I personally didn't like it much at first because it was like it's Resident Evil with dinosaurs. But once I got to actually play it and like get it in my hands, I was like, okay, this is actually cool. I like this game. But like I said, it's just dependent on how things are done. I mean, Resident Evil to me feels better in the classic Resident Evil style. Dino Crisis would make a whole lot of sense with an over-the-shoulder view because it's not a game that's necessarily supposed to scare you, more or less. It's just about, like I said, you surviving the experience. And if Capcom could if they could do that, I mean, they could execute that in a way that would make it a memorable experience and the game would be awesome, I would definitely pick up a copy. I mean, yeah, I would definitely get it. As long as it wasn't exclusive to a specific console where I would have to worry about what they're doing with it. But that's just my take on it. Personally, that's really all I really wanted to say. I will be doing more of these. I'm trying to get my podcast caught up because I've really been doing a lot of videos and I've been trying my best to work on my articles. So if you agree with this, hopefully you do. If you're listening in on YouTube, click subscribe. So I will definitely do more of these. I will continue to do more of these. Like it so that I know that people want to hear more of these. And if you're on SoundCloud, hey, keep listening in. Like it, please. That's all I really want to do with this. But thank you for listening in. Hope you enjoyed at least the idea. That's more or less what I just want to share the idea, and I'm hoping that it goes over well with people because to me, gaming is very close to my heart, and I want to do as much as I can possible to improve the video game industry in any way, shape, or form that I can. So, thank you very much for listening in. YouTube listeners, the link to the original article which this idea was presented in will be below in the description. For those on SoundCloud, I apologize, but I can't really do that. But thank you very much for listening in, and if you are really interested, the article that it goes to is Great Video Game Ideas Not Used, number 16, Throwback Edition number 3. There you go. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Keep an eye and an ear out for more of my content. Thank you very much for listening in, and until the next time, enjoy your games.